As far as we can see, do you sense any signs of optimism that things will end peacefully in the near future?
In the near future, most definitely not. Because if we are talking about the current situation on the ground, right, there remains a large quantity of anti-coup dissent, but there are no longer any very large mass rallies or marches in major cities like Yangon and Mandalay because of obviously the lethal crackdowns that people have been killed from. So people are also, let's just say, very economically hurt because previously to this political crisis, there was the impact of COVID-19. So with the current situation now is that the military, the junta is doing their utmost to get everything running again. So one good example recently is that they are trying to reopen the schools and from high schools to university and colleges and so on. But it's not going very well because more protests in rural areas, they have surfaced, led by teachers that were on strike against against participating in an education system that will be run by the military regime. So people's confidence in the banks are also at an all-time low, especially with this current political crisis. The Myanmar currency is depreciating quite considerably. And everywhere in Yangon and also to an extent in Mandalay, you can see signs of bank runs, right? So lots of people, hundreds and hundreds of people queuing in front of ATMs and banks and so on. So the central bank has tried to ease the fear and ease the panic of the public. But commodities price continue to rise as the kyat continues to depreciate. So the general public is in a panic right now. And needless to say, well, the battles are ongoing in ethnic states. Yes. So there are also reports of bombs, which the junta blames it on anti-coup people, that they are trying to create chaos, while else the anti-coup people are pinning the blame on the military for trying to get justification for their crackdowns.
David, what's the people's sentiment in terms of joining civil disobedience movement? Because we saw how people were so active, especially during the first month after the coup. But what's the sentiment right now?
The sentiment right now would be that, the people that remains currently in strike, part of the civil disobedience movement, they are still of the belief that it is hurting the military government. And it is true, and it is definitely hurting the military government. And initially, the response by the military government was not to take any sort of drastic action, such as firing them, right? So if they fire them, it will be harder for them to come back and get the government running again. But the military has been pushed to a point that in recent days, they were forced to remove from positions thousands of striking public workers. Yes, there have been people that quit the CDM movement, that quit their strike and went back to work. But the truth of the situation is that there is simply not enough people to keep things running, even if people went back. And there have also been reports of that I cannot confirm independently, but people are saying that they go back to work and they are facing harassment, discriminations and all that, and other forms of punishment. So the CDM movement, in my opinion, will still continue to go strong, especially in sectors such as education and healthcare.
I think it's very clear from what you just said that it's a very tough time for journalists. Many have been taken into custody, right? And many others are being hunted down. But there are still a lot of brave journalists who still continue to do their job like yourself. So, but on a day-to-day basis, David, how do you get information and how do you get your message across to the public?
On a day-to-day basis, right? Let's say we want to cover a news story. So as I'll talk from my personal experience, that first off, I will not carry any identification that I am a journalist.
It's a crime now. It's a crime to be a journalist now in Myanmar these days. right?
they probably won't just arrest you outright just because you are a journalist. But if they stop and search you, and if they find out that you are a journalist, they will probably keep you a while to question you. And if they find any incriminating evidence on your phone or on your backpack or whatever, they're gonna lock you up for a little bit, right? Such is the case.
Yeah.
So I will not be carrying any identification
Right.
that I'm a member of the press. And yeah, I have to be not be looking like a journalist, obviously. So cameras are out of sight, no camera bags and everything. And I will always try to get information over safer options like the phone on the internet or whatever. And for like face-to-face interviews, there is also the fear of I cannot independently verify it, but there's also the fear of the military government tapping certain prominent journalists' phones. Although I cannot independently confirm that, obviously, but there have been cases where well-known journalists from the BBC, the AP, and all that, right? They have been shadowed, they've been followed. So it's a lot of cloak and dagger, shall I say? Yeah, so just be as secretive as possible, and yeah, that's pretty much about it.